Good evening. I would like to call our council meeting on Monday, July 21st to order at 6 p.m. I'm Mayor Cliff McNeil-Smith, council colleagues in the chamber tonight. To my far left, Councillor Richard Novick, Councillor Terry O'Keefe, Councillor Chad Rantoul. To my immediate right, Councillor Scott Garnett, Councillor Sarah Duncan, and Councillor Steve Duck. Good evening to members of staff and welcome to members of the public here in the chamber and to those who may be watching the live webcast or recording of the meeting at another time. I'd like to respectfully acknowledge that we are holding our meeting in the territory of the Wasanich people, today represented by the Sayout First Nation, the Sartlip First Nation, the Pakwachin Nation, and the Malahat Nation. The Sakem Nation and the Malahat Nation. In turning to, our agenda was posted last Thursday, and since that time we have one new item of correspondence. That is an email from Jan Millington that will go under item 12A R5, which is with regards to extreme cold weather response shelter. We have no other new items, but we do have two changes. This evening, our second presentation is regarding the development variance application at 9522 Lochside Drive. And that's under presentations, which is shortly from now. And then later in the agenda, we have the staff report as an agenda item, and we will move that agenda item to immediately after the presentation. And the last change is we have 4 bylaws this evening, and the last 3 bylaws arose out of recommendations from committee that met last week, and we have a resolution under 12AR6, and I will just turn to that committee chair to move that recommendation before we proceed with the bylaws. And with those changes, those amendments, I would seek a mover and seconder the agenda be approved. Councillor Duck, Councillor Novick. I'll call the question. Those in favor? All are in favor. That carries. Thank you. We will go to our regular public participation opportunity in just a moment, but I just wanted to note that with the development variance application presentation a little later, there is an opportunity for the members of the public to come up after the applicant's presentation with any questions or comments. So if you have any questions or comments with regards to that 9522 Lochside application, please hold until then. But I'll now go to our general public participation period and ask if any members of the public wish to come forward to address council. You would have up to 4 minutes. We'd ask that you provide your name and municipality that you reside in. And I'll call for a first time. Does anyone wish to address council this evening? I'll call for a second time. Does anyone wish to address council? And calling for a third time. Not seeing any, we'll close that public participation and go to our first presentation. And I'm pleased to welcome Wendy Woollard, Treasurer of ArtSea Community Arts Council, who has a presentation on their 2024 annual report. Please come forward. There's just a little button at the bottom of the microphone to make it live. You will have the floor for up to 10 minutes if you wish, and we'd be pleased if you'd consider taking questions from council members after your presentation. Please.
Good evening. My name is Ethel Myatt, and I'm the president of the ArtSea Council, and I'm here to just do a little introduction. The board, volunteers, and staff of ArtSea Community Arts Council want to thank sincerely the town of Sydney for their annual stable financial support of $25,000. It is our primary municipal funding that we can rely on. Not only is your financial support important to ArtSea, but we are always amazed and delighted and appreciated by the kind general help from your building staff and administrative office. The administrative staff answer all my strange questions with patience and understanding and answers, and the building staff respond promptly for help with the gallery, which I'm in charge of. From broken locks to rodents to homeless campers, ArtSea can rely on the Sydney team to support immediate support with a smile. This short presentation is just to accompany the annual report, which is fulsome in fact and features and gives an excellent review of our programs. A copy of the SEA annual report is attached. Attached also is a summary of the Saanich Peninsula Arts and Culture Grant Program. From a slow start during COVID, it appears we are now awarding grants equal to the annual funds provided. I'd like to introduce to you our treasurer, Wendy Woollard, and she's going to do a few more thoughts. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Wyatt. And good evening.
Good evening, everybody. I'm just going to supplement what's in the annual report. 2024 was financially challenging for ArtSea Community Arts Council. The loss of the Victoria Foundation support, which was $60,000 less than asked and $16,000 less than 2023, created a large gap mid-season. Our grant income supports the administration of all our programs, including the ArtSea Gallery in Tulista Park, the Art Walk, the Saanich Sea Lantern Festival, the Studio Tour, the Sculpture Walk, and the Saanich Peninsula Arts and Culture Grants Program. Amazingly, our fundraiser and staff filled a large portion of the income gap with huge sponsorship donations for the Lantern Festival. This allowed us to finish the year with a loss of $27,900, close to budget, instead of a huge loss of about $40,000. Sadly, our fundraiser retired at the end of 2024. They managed to raise almost $20,000 in sponsorships and donations for the Lantern Festival, which was absolutely amazing. All our programs in 2024 were provided successfully, and we recruited 5 new volunteers and 2 new board members for 2025. We have responded to the budget crisis with changes for 2025 to increase our program income and decrease our expenses. We increased our membership fees by 20%, increased the gallery rental and deposits by 25%, and reduced our payroll by $25,000 a year. This will require a large increase in volunteer participation and a part-time PR contractor. We also changed our recruitment policy. All new paid labor will be contract only, and this will defray the paying the cost of benefits. ArtSea seems to have weathered the 2024 storm, and thankfully we did not have to dip into the emergency funds generously arranged for us by the town of Sydney. Saanich Peninsula Arts and Culture Grant Program. Attached is also a financial review of the SPAG program. From a slow start at the beginning of COVID, it appears we are now awarding grants almost equal to the annual funds provided. In 2024, we awarded $31,560, of which $26,008 was funded by the town of Sydney and $6,000 was from North Saanich. It is good that we have the savings from the COVID period so that if applications for 2025 increase to greater than annual support, we will not have to refuse anyone. All the administration of these grants is paid out of the operating revenue for ArtSea. No extra funding is given by Sydney or North Saanich for this service. We got wonderful news this year in June. The ArtSea was awarded a donation from the 100 Women Who Care. So our financial security is very much improved. We are enormously grateful to this amazing group of ladies. On behalf of ArtSea, many, many thanks again to the town of Sydney for such generous support. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Thank you for your presentation. I'll turn to colleagues if there are any questions or comments. Councillor Duck, please.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Woollard, for your presentation. I'm sure you're making similar presentations to our colleagues in the District of Central Saanich and the District of North Saanich. Can you please, if you haven't made that presentation, ask the question why they're not stepping up to the plate?
In October of last year, we presented a very pointed presentation to them with a chart showing their tax base, their population, their use of our products, and their donation, their subsidy, their funding in proportion. And nobody even turned pink. And we reminded them again this year just before they did their decision making on our funding. And I listened to the recording of the meeting where they actually did the decisions on the specific groups. And it sort of went like this. Well, who are ArtSea? Well, I don't know. Christine isn't here. Okay, well, what do they do? I don't know. well, what did we give them last year? Well, we gave them 6,000 or whatever it is, and they said, oh, well, let's give them the same this year. That was it. So this year, I assure you, I will be there the morning of that meeting to remind them of who we are. Plus, we are meeting with them in September. That was the first meeting I could get with them, even though I applied at the beginning of June. And I will definitely be there before the funding meeting. So, yes, that's...
Thank you, and we fully appreciate all the work you're doing with ArtSea,
Thank
and
you.
certainly
Thank you.
resonates in the community, and I hope that our colleagues in the other communities can recognize what you're doing and support you in the future, because you do wonderful work.
Thank you. Well, we hope so. We are also trying to do more outreach. Central Saanich is keen to have have more visibility and work with them more. And we started a conversation with them about to do something in conjunction with the flavor trails that they put on, and have maybe art at the farm and things like that. But we didn't have the people power to follow up on that for this year, and hopefully maybe we'll get something going next year.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor O'Keefe, please.
Thank you.
Hi,
Hello,
Terry.
and nice to see you. Thank you for the presentation, and just, comment on, thank you for all that ArtSea does for our community. I know the times that I've popped into the gallery and talked to the artists there, and I like to chat them up and find out, why they're out here displaying their art. And, their comment from many of them is there's really no place for small artists who can display their work. So they seem very, grateful for that opportunity to come out, whether they're from Victoria or Langford or Sydney or North Saanich, the ability to display their art. I think that's great. Nice to hear that you're able to get more money out the door for the grants, and that people are picking up on that, so that's nice to hear. You mentioned about the administration of the grant program, and I know we give you $25,000 for operating, but have any estimate in terms of time and costs that it takes to administer the grant program?
Yes, Kirsten, our administrator, has broken out the annual cost at about 4,500 in terms of hours spent answering grantees' questions and things like that.
And does that include like the advertising and things that you do, and the reviewing of applications? And
I believe so. I mean, in terms of specifically reviewing the applications, yes, yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's about, I don't know, what percentage is that? Under 20%. Is it 25 is the grant program, I think?
26.8, I believe.
26, okay. Okay, great. Well, thanks for that.
Also, just a point, Victoria is our major user, residents of Victoria is our major user of the gallery. And we have no way of getting funds from Victoria. The Victoria Foundation, I understand, is our route to funds from Victoria. And this year again, we were turned down. This year we were turned down flat. Last year they said they gave us a grant, but they ran out of money before they got to us. This year we didn't even get into the draw. So it looks like unless you're Indigenous, LGBTQ, purple, I don't know what else. Oh yeah. Yes. Anyway, if you're different, you get a grant. If you're run-of-the-mill or senior, you don't get a grant, because I know we sort of push the senior angle, but that doesn't work either. So we're trying.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. And, I guess the upside is that the people of Sydney and North Saanich get to experience artwork from around the region, from the opportunity that you're providing.
Yeah.
So thanks for that.
Thank you. And Sarah, welcome to being our counselor now.
Thank you, Wendy, Woollard, and Ethel Wyatt, for making the presentation this evening. Thank you for volunteering as directors for ArtSea, and to your your colleagues as directors. to your administrator and other volunteers. Thanks for all the good work you do. We're next turning to the second presentation, and it is for Development Variance Application Number DV100378 at 9522 Lochside Drive. It is to vary the zoning bylaw to allow a commercial use on the second floor of an existing building. Good evening and welcome to Jordan Milne, GMC Properties, the applicant.
Good evening, Mayor and members of Council. My name is Jordan Milne from GMC Projects, and as well the Director of 9522 Lochside Holdings, the owner of the property. I'm before you this evening to ask for your consideration of a variance to permit us to enable commercial use on the second floor of a component of one of the existing buildings for the purposes of an on-site presentation center for us to proceed with sales and marketing of the project. As you can see on, or yeah, just next slide. So you can see on the screen, the very front component of the existing two-story motel that is on the corner of Lochside and Woollard. We have received our demolition permits for the totality of the structures on the property. We have received bids for that work, and that work is expected to commence this fall. We are interested in retaining the vaulted section of that front waterfront section on that corner in order to provide for an on-site sales center. And the existing building is a two-story building whereby the existing main floor is only 8 feet in terms of ceiling height finished. And as well, the new building, in order to resolve the floodplain construction level, is actually about 1.5 meters out of the ground from that current grade. And so the second floor of this building has vaulted ceilings that more closely mirror what the actual ceiling heights of the units above are. And so the intention is for us to have a basically office space and sales office on the main floor and a set of stairs leading up to a second floor that would show a prospective purchaser a finished kitchen, a finished bathroom, and kind of living room, dining room area within, and then obviously a more representative expression of what that view would be, being that you would be basically halfway between the first and second floor of the newly proposed building. This was recommended to us by our sales and marketing advisors as the most idyllic location for the project in order to conduct sales and marketing, being that it is that proximity to the waterfront and those views that is one of the most defining and attractive features of the project. And so I'm not 100% certain on the totality of the process that would unfold for us to seek permission, but as much as could be done by council to expedite, we are ready to roll. We have submitted our building permit application, which these drawings are, and if we can continue through some of these slides, this will give you an example of where we're looking to retain the existing access, the existing building that would be retained. We would be changing the entrance to that. We've applied for our development permit minor with staff in order to make those, exterior modifications. The main thing I think that right now would be holding up our ability to proceed with the building out of this space to conduct sales and marketing is the development variance permit. And so these drawings give you an example of where the new entrance would be, reception desk, model table for the project, and then actually if we go back one slide on that second floor where that mock ensuite bathroom, kitchen, and living dining would be. None of those spaces within the actual project are as low as 8-foot ceilings on the main floor, so it's actually not even possible for us to demonstrate what a full kitchen would be in the proposed building within the confines of the main floor. And while we did look at options for an off-site presentation center within Sydney, Beacon Avenue was the only location that sales and marketing had advised us would be an appropriate location to do so. And there is no zoning permission to enable real estate sales offices within Beacon Avenue in the town of Sydney. Maybe if you skip to the two over, this would give you an example of what that building would look like once created or amended and modified. And maybe just one more, or maybe that's it. Perfect. So yeah, we are trying to move forward with this project as quickly as we are able. It is an extremely difficult market right now, and I think that's not to be as a surprise. anything and everything that we can do to effectively help in the advancement of the project, and anything that council can provide to us in order to help us do that is greatly appreciated. Yeah, I'm happy to take any questions that anybody might have.
Thank you for the presentation. We're first going to go to public participation.
Sure.
So if you just want to take a moment, I'll call for anybody wishing to do public participation. And then I'll look to staff to introduce their report, and then we'll go to questions from council members, from both yourself and staff.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. And so this is an opportunity for members of the public. If you have any questions or comments with regards to the application, I'll call for a first time. Does anyone wish to come forward? I'll call for a second time. And for a third time, seeing none, I'll now turn to Ms. Verhagen, our Director of Development Services, to give an introduction to the staff report, please.
Good evening, thank you. Yeah, as was mentioned, this is an application to vary a condition of use in the zoning bylaw. The property's zoning restricts commercial uses in what would be a new front building here to the ground floor. So they're looking to expand a commercial use into the second floor of an existing building. Therefore, the variance is needed. The applicant gave a good overview of what is proposed, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Millen, if you'd like to come forward again, I'll now turn to colleagues if you have any questions. Councillor Gurnett, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Millen, for your presentation. A couple questions. So based on what I'm seeing here, this is going to be a display for the condominium units, I'm assuming?
Correct. At this time, we're looking to advance the condominium component of the project.
So the lot 2, which is the townhouses, that'll be something that you'll pursue at a later date?
Correct.
Okay. My only other question really is, I couldn't see on the site plans in terms of an elevator, or, and I only reason I ask that is because there's an accessible parking space, which I believe is a requirement, but then I'm wondering, how does somebody with mobility issues get to the second floor to look at a display unit?
Yeah, unfortunately, we wouldn't be in a position like just to install for a short-term basis an elevator to provide for access to the second floor. So our main floor presentation space is actually where the sales office is located. It's where all the material boards are for the project. It's where the model table is. It's where the touchscreen digital screen would be, so somebody could walk through the renderings and everything. The one thing that somebody would be prevented from having if they were with mobility challenges would be to actually see that second floor. And that's just a sort of a limitation of the existing infrastructure, and a reality of sort of the cost basis for this sort of extended lifespan comparative to, but limited lifespan comparative to the remainder of the buildings on the site.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. I'll turn to Councillor Novick next, and Councillor Duck.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for your presentation. Very informative. I'm a bit curious if you're able to go ahead with this as you plan. What will be the ultimate disposition of that building once it's time to build the condominium part of the project?
Just to clarify, do you mean like what would be the time frame to demolish or remove that existing building, or what would be done with the building?
Yeah, both, within time frame and what will happen to it.
So we have marketed the spaces with Nickel Brothers Assistance to try and find alternative utilization of the existing structures for other purposes outside of the town of Sydney or within. We have been successful in identifying 2 different groups that will be taking the 4 pan-abode cottages from the property, one with a local First Nation that will be taking 2 of those pan-abodes, and another that will be taking the other 2. Unfortunately, the 2-story motel structures are not structures that we were able to find somebody to reutilize. However, this building is actually a prefabricated building. It's a Lindell home, if anybody's familiar with Lindell structures. And so it actually is a prefabricated structure and could be relocated in the future. It would be our preference that somebody is able to actually take this building and repurpose it and relocate it somewhere else in the future. However, in the event that there's not somebody there for that purpose, the existing structure would be demolished when we're ready to commence construction of the condominium.
Okay, thank you. So that means you're going to have to remove that building before you start constructing the condominiums. Will that impact your ability to sell the condominiums?
We would need to reach a certain minimum amount of pre-sales within the condominium before we can commence construction. So we wouldn't proceed to remove this building until such time we've met that financing threshold. And after meeting that financing threshold, we would continue with sales, however, not necessarily with this on-site presentation center. And once we are nearing completion of the condo, any unsold inventory or any unsold homes, we would be setting up display homes within finished units on the property in order to showcase what it is.
And would this structure also be used to sell the townhomes?
No, it is very unlikely that it would be used to sell the townhomes. We had contemplated and discussed with staff the idea of actually moving this structure to Lot 2 on the property in order to be able to facilitate continued condominium sales and possibly townhome sales down the road. Unfortunately, it's not something that seems to be reasonably a doable, and I think there's a variety of considerations that possibly Ms. Verhagen could speak to better than I could in terms of maybe the technical implications from an OCP perspective, a built form perspective, and so on.
And, okay, so the strategy to sell the condominiums is to use this building. What would
Correct.
be your strategy to sell the townhouses?
Quite common for townhouse development is to start with one phase and to do it on a spec basis, which is basically to build it without pre-sales, but then to be limited so that you have to achieve sales in order to be able to continue to your next phase. It's given sort of the risk profile of that right now and some other factors that we're choosing not to proceed. So it could be that we proceed with the sale of townhomes actually after we've built the first phase of townhomes. They have a different financing mechanism towards them and profile than condos do. Condos are basically strictly pre-sold with extremely rare exceptions in terms of bank financing, whereas townhomes, they have what's called a rolling or revolving loan. Because they're built in blocks, you can kind of build one block, sell some or all of those, and effectively roll that construction loan over to the next phases. And so that's one of the mechanisms that we would be considering at the time.
So it's entirely possible that should market conditions dictate, you might only build half or a third of the proposed townhouses on Lot 2.
I mean, anything is obviously possible in terms of what could happen in the market. I mean, right now our main focus is to try and deliver housing that we feel we can deliver, and right now our focus is on the condominium. There's other possible considerations for us as it relates to the townhomes, but it's likely for us right now that we would finish the townhome or finish the condo project or get close to finishing the condo project before we commence work on the townhouses. It will really be market driven.
I see. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I'll turn to Councillor Duck, please.
Thank you, Mayor. My questions have been answered.
Thank you. Councillor O'Keefe.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Excited to see that things are going to start happening there. And I don't know if the question is for you or maybe it's through to staff. In regards to, is a temporary use permit something that would be applicable in this case and would be quicker, or is it the same either way, going for temporary use permit or variance, or it's just not appropriate in this instance?
Ms. Verhagen, please.
Sure, thank you. Through to Councillor O'Keefe, the use is already permitted, so a temporary use permit would not be appropriate here. That wouldn't be the tool that we use. The timeline is a little bit, well, fairly similar, just in the summer right now, given that we have one council meeting per month. If council makes a resolution to move ahead with a notification for this variance, then it would come back to council for a final decision in August. If this was a temporary use permit, it would be the same timing.
Oh.
So we're not saving any time. The application fee is substantially lower for a variance permit. I guess the biggest reason is that it's not the right tool in this case,
Okay.
because the use is already permitted.
Right, okay, thank you for that. Yeah, and it sounds like, so you're planning to get going in September, so approval in August, it sounds like would be work for you. That's all I have, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Just two questions. One is there currently water, wastewater, and stormwater use with this building?
Yes,
those utilities?
yes,
And they'll continue while you're occupying it for this use?
correct.
The second question is, you're of the understanding that if this variance were to proceed, it applies to this existing building and wouldn't carry over into a new condominium structure?
Correct. We're happy if there's a condition to strictly prohibit that, or for anything that, we have no desire to pursue commercial use above the main floor space in the new development. And it's really just for this unique purpose. We had actually hoped and thought that by putting the sales office expressly and putting sort of the office components downstairs, and limiting it to sort of a kitchen and a bathroom vignette, which we would call sort of like a display home, that it might be, we might not have an issue with the second floor, but it was determined that because they're interconnected, that it would be sort of considered one commercial space. And we're grateful, staff, when they let us know. We're very expeditious in being able to accept our application and get us here this evening, knowing that they have a lot of things that they're seeking council's attention.
Thank you. The motion that we're looking to does say existing buildings, so we're comfortable with that. Thank you very much for taking our questions.
Thank you.
Could you perhaps just touch the mic there, Mr. Thank you. So council, if I could look for a member to move the staff recommendation, Councillor Duck?
Yes, I'll move the recommendation that owners and tenants in occupation of property within 75 meters, 246 feet of 9522 Lochside Drive be notified regarding development variance permit application number DV 100378, I think that, yeah, to allow commercial use to be located in the second story of an existing building, that any written correspondence received to be forwarded to council at the time of consideration and of approval of variance.
Second.
We have it moved and seconded. I'll turn to the movers to begin.
No, I think it's great to see this, as Councillor O'Keefe said, to see this moving ahead, and I'm happy to see it. And I think it's a great way to encourage people to come and look at the site and see what's happening there. And I think it's good use of an existing building before it's torn down. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Novak?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe it's a perfectly reasonable request and completely makes sense to use existing assets rather than to tear it down and build up a temporary site as a display area or sales office, and then have to tear that down again. So I think this makes sense, and it won't impact the streetscape very much at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Those in favor? All are in favor. That motion carries. Thank you. We're next turning to bylaw number 2293, our zoning bylaw. It's amendment number 2, sorry, to our zoning bylaw to support the disaster water supply project by allowing shipping containers in parks. We have discussed this at a previous meeting, including staff reports, and I would look to a member to move the recommendation. Councillor Duck?
Yeah, I'll also move that upon approval from MOTI, or is it MOTT now? It is MOTT now, on June 24th, 2025, the bylaw be adopted.
We have it moved and seconded. Any discussion? Not seeing any discussion. Thank you. I'll call the question. All in favor? All are in favor. That motion carries. Thank you. And so now, just before proceeding to the next 3 bylaws, I'll turn to Councillor Garnett, who was chair of our committee of the whole meeting last week, to read recommendation number 6, please.
Thank you, Mayor. The committee recommends, and I so move, that the proposed bylaws to amend the Animal License and Control Bylaw, Municipal Ticket Information Bylaw, and Bylaw Enforcement Notice Bylaw be brought forward to council for consideration.
We have it moved.
Second.
Seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All are in favor. That carries. Thank you. So we'll now proceed to the first of the 3 bylaws. Under 5B is bylaw number 2294, amendment number 3 to our Animal License and Control bylaw to include provisions for enforcement of nuisance and dangerous dogs and update impounding and maintenance costs. Again, we've had discussion at a previous meeting and given direction for this to come forward. We can proceed with 3 readings. I would look that we have the same mover and seconder for some efficiency. Councillor Duck?
I move the first reading.
Moved by Councillor Duck, seconded by Councillor Novak. All in
Move
favor?
second.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I'll call the question. Those in favor? All are in favor. Carries.
Move second.
The same mover and seconder. This is where we have any discussion. I'll turn to colleagues. Any discussion? Councillor O'Keefe?
Thank you. I'm just wondering, are we, through you to staff, are we planning for any additional enforcement, like once this is in place?
Turn to staff for that. Mr. Edwards?
If you could clarify the question by additional enforcement, what? We only have one bylaw officer,
Okay,
so,
sorry, so I
yeah.
guess, like, I presume that, that it's sort of, our bylaw is complaint-driven, normally, and so I just wonder that once signage or something goes out, that we might do a little bit of a education effort, or have our bylaw person find pockets of time to be going out to the tennis court and advising people, if that's.
Yeah, I
so-
would imagine that because this would be a new bylaw provision, that there would be a little more attention paid to those areas that are now
Okay.
restricted. I don't know about an educational sessions and things like that, but rather I think there would be the signage and increased frequency or the visits to those areas. But
Yeah, no,
yeah,
that's,
yeah.
when I meant education, I just meant, I understand from speaking to our bylaw officers in the past, when they come across someone who's doing something that they shouldn't, usually the focus is on education, to let them know that there's been a change in that area, so
That's correct.
That's all that I
Our
meant.
bylaw approach is very much about inform and educate prior to issuing
yeah, okay,
tickets.
yeah, that's great, thanks.
Sorry, no, this is not a time. Sorry. You can certainly come forward at the end of the meeting or contact us at another time. But no worries at all. No worries at all. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. Those in favor? All are in favor. That carries.
I'll move third reading.
Second.
Same mover and seconder. All in favor? All are in favor. That carries. We're next going to, under 5C, bylaw number 2295, the amendment number 4 to our municipal ticket information bylaw to align with the amendments to the animal license and control bylaw, amendment number 3. I would look to the mover.
I will move the first reading.
Moved and
Second.
seconded by Councillor Novick. All in favor? Opposed, not opposed, that carries.
Second reading.
Moved and seconded, the same
Second.
movers. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor? That motion carries. Moved
And third reading.
The same
Second.
mover and seconder. Those in favor? All are in favor, that carries. And we're going to the third, bylaw number 2296. Bylaw notice, amendment number 3 to our bylaw notice enforcement bylaw to align with the amendments to the animal license and control bylaw amendment number 3. Councillor Duck?
I move first reading.
Same movers and seconders. Those in favor? Thank you. All in favor, it carries.
Second reading. I move.
Second.
The same movers. Any discussion? Seeing none. Those in favor? All are in favor, it carries.
And third reading.
Second.
The same movers. All in favor? And that motion carries unanimous. Thank you. So we're next turning to adoption of minutes, and I'd look for a mover and seconder that the minutes from our regular council meeting of June 23rd be approved.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Duck,
Second.
second by Councillor Novick. Are there any corrections to those minutes? Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, those in favor? All are in favor, that carries. The next item is the mayor's report. I just have one brief item this evening. We did have a committee of the whole meeting last week. That's our single committee of the whole meeting for July, and tonight is our single meeting, council meeting for the month of July. Council will next be meeting on 4 weeks from tonight on Monday, August the 18th. I want to take a moment to wish council member colleagues, whether you're looking for recreation or an epic adventure, to enjoy your time away. I do know that each of us may have an occasional meeting with external bodies, but we just wanted to give those well wishes. Next, we're turning to council reports. We have two. I'll turn to Councillor Duck first, who has two reports, the first from the South Island Prosperity Project.
Yes, I recently attended the annual general meeting of the South Island Prosperity partnership. And just to make council and public aware that they're working on a new strategic plan that's going through several concept development stages, engaging members and public in looking at their next 5 years sort of thing. That final report came to the AGM for members to review, and the next steps will be they'll start engaging direct members with that new proposed strategic plan, and looking to launch sort of the overview of it in early September, and that will include presentations to each of the membership municipalities, which will happen in the period of probably September 15th to October 15th. And that'll be an opportunity for people to, councils to engage with SIP and see what their direction is and ask questions. And they'll be doing that, as I said, to each of the partner municipalities in the regional district. If there's any questions to the SIP, I'm prepared to answer them.
Thank you for the update. I'll turn to colleagues if there are any questions or comments. Not seeing any, please go to your next report.
Thank you. I recently attended the Climate Action Intermunicipal Task Force meeting, which happens quarterly. It was really quite interesting. There's a project in Souk right now that's being directed by Firewood Learning Commons about climate action workshops and how they're engaging the public to make change relative to climate action. I think this is a great way, because the way they're looking at it is it's transactional, it's a social change, so it's not going to happen in the next 1 or 2 years or 5 years. It's as they put it, it's a great epochal change, and it was really interesting, their approach and the feedback they're getting from the folks that have attended in Souk, and they look to carry that forward to other municipalities as well as the school system. The climate action strategy is also being renewed, and it's going to be coming forward in the first quarter of 2026, and looking at a number of changes there. And one other notable piece was the CRD, based on a request from the task force, is looking at a sort of a CRD map on e-mobility sites, so that we can start to, rather than going to BC Hydro or the other providers, there'll be one map that shows where all those plug-ins are that will help people find them as we move to more and more powered vehicles. And certainly, as the mayor experienced recently, we've got vehicles on the water and vehicles on the roadway now that are in the form of buses and boats. So our move towards an e-transportation system is rapidly growing. And the other one was just the Climate Action Group is dealing with sort of some pushback on the zero carbon step code that was expressed at the UBCM. So they're just trying to find ways in which how they manage that going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate the update. Looking to colleagues. Councillor O'Keefe, please.
Yeah, thanks. Just through you to Councillor Deck, a question on the CRD Climate Action Task Force. Does that include staff members as well? Like, I'm wondering, sounds like there's all sorts of good things going on there. So does that, if we have a climate change coordinator or staff person, does that go back to them and get considered in terms of what we're doing with our climate action goals?
So there are two levels there. The staff level intermunicipal meetings of climate coordinators that are representing the different communities, as well as then there's council representatives in it. They're not in the same meeting. Okay. The same staff people obviously interact with them, but yeah, I think right now, I think that's probably going through probably one of our planning department folks
Okay.
until that position's filled.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you again, Councillor Duck. We're next going to turn to committee reports. We have one, and that is we're receiving the minutes from our committee of the whole meeting of July 14th. We don't
Point of
require-
order, Councillor Barnett has
I have a report, Mayor.
Oh, you do have a report. Let's go back a step to Councillor Gurnett, our liaison to the Sydney Business Improvement Area Society, for a verbal update. My
Thank
apologies.
you. No worries. Thank you, Mayor. I attended the latest board meeting June 25th. Just an update on the Sydney gift card program, approximately a little over $6,000 in sales in May. Sales to date on the program, which is approximately 2 years old, is just shy of $181,000. and just over 102,000 of those dollars have been redeemed through the program. And there are now 75 businesses participating, so it's been quite successful. And I know I've seen some of these cards cycle through my own home, so it's they're being used really well. The MRDT hotel tax collection officially begins August 1st, and revenues will be received October 1st. An update on the SBI Sydney Pride Festival that was held on June 14th at Beacon Park. It welcomed over 2,800 visitors. It was very, very busy, very successful. And thank you to Mayor McNeil Smith and our Member of Parliament, Elizabeth May, who provided opening remarks before the festival began. With the usual Sydney shuffle that occurs and the businesses moving from one end to the other, an update that the wayfinding signage is being updated, and they were hoping to have the post fully done in July at some point. A Sydney Visitor Center is open Monday to Saturday, as a reminder, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. is staffed by 1 full-time paid position and 1 part-time paid position, as well as 40 volunteers. So another shout out to all the great volunteers in our community to help things run. The Ask a Local kiosk is running from June through to the end of August, and you'll find them just right in and around by the Beacon Bandstand. And this is staffed by a combination of volunteers and summer students. And along those lines, SBA was successful in receiving $19,000 in funding to support the hiring of a youth employee. And I'll end with 2 notes here. The World Atlas has named Sydney one of the safest towns in BC for senior living, recognizing our community's charm, safety, and quality of life. And finally, Forbes magazine has named Sydney one of Canada's top retirement destinations, as is evidenced in all the latest census materials that come out, citing its welcoming community, quality healthcare, natural beauty, and mild climate. And that's all for me. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you for the positive update. Councillor Garnett, any questions or comments from colleagues? Not seeing any. Thank you again. We'll now go to committee reports, and the first is we're receiving the minutes from our committee of the whole meeting of July 14th. We don't require a motion. Are there any corrections to those minutes? Not seeing any. I'll now turn to Councillor Garnett, Chair of that Committee of the Whole meeting, to take us through the recommendations, please.
Thank you, Mayor. And I'll move recommendation 1. The committee recommends, and I so move, that owners and tenants in occupation of properties within 75 meters, that's 246 feet, have 2090 Rennie Place be notified regarding development variance application number DV100375 to relax the setback requirement for accessory buildings from 1.2 meters to 0.4 meters in order to allow for the construction of a shed on the subject property. And then any written correspondence received be forwarded to council at the time of consideration of approval of the variance.
Second.
We have it moved and seconded. Any discussion? Of course, we had good discussion at committee last week. Call the question. Those in favor? All are in favor. That carries. Please continue.
Recommendation number 2, the committee recommends, and I so move, that development permit application number DP100847 and development variance permit application number DV100359 at 2114 Beacon Avenue West, 2098 Beacon Avenue West, and 2107 John Place be forwarded to the Advisory Planning Commission for further review and comment, and be referred to BC Transit for comment.
Second.
We have it moved, seconded by Councillor Duck. Any discussion? Councillor O'Keefe, please.
Thank you. I'm still in support of this, but I have some concerns in regards, we talked about lack of storage, and despite the comments made that they found it's not an issue, I think it will be an issue. And I think that, as one of colleagues mentioned, I worry about balconies becoming storage areas, become unsightly, and I think that's especially an issue if the variance is going to allow those balconies to project out more. So I'd like to see that addressed in some way, but I'm not sure what to suggest. We had some discussion about the possible relocation of the parking entrance on John Place, and I think it's important for the residents of that area to know that in communication with staff over the last couple of days, that all access for 2180 and this new building and other buildings will be via John Place. So there will be no egress, ingress onto Beacon West. So I think that'll be a concern for local residents, but I understand staff's rationale in terms of safety issues. But I think there's going to be pedestrian safety, parking, and traffic flow issues on John Place with you know, you've got now 320 parking spaces within those units, plus the residents who are there already, plus the additional traffic we get from Amazon and the new development in the future. And I know that staff have advised that they'll be looking at what upgrades might be necessary at the intersection of John Place and Galaran. So I mention that just so that residents in that area are aware that we're aware of that, and that's something staff will be looking at. I don't know what else to suggest there, but I'll be looking forward to what APC has to say on these things, and yeah, we'll see what happens. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor O'Keefe. Before going to the next speaker, I'll just turn a question to staff for clarification, please. That reference was made to 2180 and the parking, the access to parking being off John Place. I think our understanding was when that application came forward is that when this development moves forward, is that the access and egress would be off Beacon Avenue West until such time as Ministry of Transportation and Transit were to make changes at the intersection. If staff could please clarify.
That's correct, Mayor. For 2180, the initial access will be off of Beacon West, and it'll be right-hand turn in and right-hand turn out only. And that was at the request of this council. But when the Ministry of Transportation does make amendments to the intersection, that will be shifted to Jan Place. And so the developer knows that that is part of the development criteria and is planning accordingly.
Thank you. Just one follow-up to that, and our understanding is that there is no timeline at this stage for MOT in proceeding with changes that might have implication.
That's correct.
Thank you. Councillor O'Keefe, please.
Yeah, just a point of clarification. So those changes, is MOT requiring us to do that, or is that something that the town is deciding to do because we think it will be safer to do so?
Mr. Edwards.
I may turn to our manager of engineering for this one, but my understanding is that it is highly likely that the new approaches and design for the intersection would create a greater concern and challenges for that access point off of Beacon. But if I could turn to our manager for clarification.
Good evening, Mr. Demare.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's correct, yeah. With Mr. Edwards mentioned, yeah, there are potential impacts of any improvements to the intersection impacting that entrance into 2180, so it's yet to be seen, but it's likely.
Okay, so it's not that the ministry is requiring us to do that, but based on what we know of how the intersection might be reconfigured, our staff are recommending that, or more supportive of having that no access onto Beacon West then. Okay, got it.
Is it fair to say that this is in the exploration stage with MOT and discussions with staff as necessary?
It's probably a far future consideration. I'm sure the ministry has it on their mind, but yeah, we haven't received, or I'm not aware of any current information on that.
Thank you. And just to make a final clarification, this does come from previous meetings, but there will be emergency vehicle access off John Place when this development proceeds. So, thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, it carries. Councillor?
Recommendation 3, committee recommends, and I so move 1, the staff proceed with stakeholder engagement with the development cost charge, amenity cost charge rates, and municipal assist factor presented in this report. 2, the staff explore DCC waivers and reductions and report back to council.
Second.
We have it moved. Seconded by Councillor O'Keefe. With your microphone on.
Yeah.
Discussion?
Yeah, thanks. As I I'll try and keep to things I didn't say last time. I'm in favor of this moving forward at this time, just because I'm curious to hear what the community has to say about this. And I understand it in the numerous questions that I sent to staff and trying to wrap my head around this, that this is a balancing act between who pays for the infrastructure for new growth, so I understand that. But some of the issues that I'm having with, and I hope my colleagues will, as we move forward in this, give some thought to, from a fairness perspective, when I look at the growth that's projected in the next 20 years, I think it's maybe about 3,000 people, and then I don't know how many households that would be, maybe a few hundred less. And then I look at some of so the growth is maybe just over 1% a year. But then when I look at some of the projects that are listed, and I see 75% of the cost going to be funded through DCCs. So I'm not completely comfortable with whether that's a fair allocation yet. I'm also looking at the aspect of, in the best practices guide, it talks about we want to make sure that these don't inhibit growth or development. And so I am a little bit still concerned that these will possibly be a disincentive and be a barrier to some of the housing policies and targets that we want to achieve in terms of attracting young families, balancing out our demographic, and that sort of thing. According to the charts, that as they're proposed, we will have the highest DCCs in the CRD, so I'm concerned about that. The balanced demographic, and the challenges that, if we're trying to get families to buy into that medium density, the SMU housing, concern about the additional barrier. Having said that, I'll go along with this for now, and as I say, I'll look forward to see what feedback we get from the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further discussion? So just to clarify with staff, I think as we're aware from the discussion at committee that this is to proceed with stakeholder engagement, and after the stakeholder engagement, it will return to council. And so I'll call the question. All in favor? All are in favor. That carries. Councillor?
Recommendation 4, the committee recommends and I so move that staff report back on the future of the RCMP detachment building and options for a police development cost charge.
We have it moved.
Second.
Seconded. I'll turn to the movers. Councillor Novick? Any discussion? Seeing none. Those in favor? All are in favor. That carries.
Recommendation number 5, the committee recommends and I so move that staff be directed to prepare OCP and zoning bylaw amendments to allow for an emergency shelter use at 9924 3rd Street, that being Wakefield Manor.
Second.
We have it moved and seconded. Discussion. Councillor Rintoul, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to note that I'll support this, obviously with the understanding that the processes that are going to be undertaken next with regard to the OCP and the zoning bylaw will involve considerable consultation and input opportunities from the public. And I make that observation just with respect to the letter that we received late this afternoon and concerns potentially for Wakefield Manor residents. Frankly, that letter resonates with me, and so I look forward to hearing some feedback as a part of this process. So we're just moving this to a phase in the discussion where we can look to public consultation on these matters. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Further discussion? I just want to further note, thank you, Councillor Rintoul. Sorry, Councillor Duncan, please.
Actually, I have a feeling you were going to probably say what I was going to say, so regarding, it was just further to the consultation that was going on, that the landlord to Wakefield Manor is Beacon Community Services, and since they're very involved in these types of services, that consultation will be done by people who have experience in this area, who've already been speaking with other social groups in the area that are interested in providing this service. And as they run both this facility and have access to people who run emergency shelters, we think that they'll be really good people who are in a good position to do this sort of consultation, and a lot of that won't necessarily be coming through council, but will actually be being done by people who have on the ground experience, and then we'll be hearing back from the both parties and all the other people who are involved.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Dutt?
Yeah, I'd echo that. I'm sure Beacon Community Services is well aware of what they need to do for the security of the existing residents there, and that how they develop that as they move forward will be certainly part of the future. I can't think they would ignore the current residents there, so I'm quite confident that they'll come with a good security plan for the existing residents. I think that'll be an important aspect of that project.
Thank you. So I just want to clarify that tonight is not a decision point on a shelter opening in that location at this time. It's to allow the possibility of doing that. We wouldn't move forward with that, and it will come back to council at a later date once arrangements are made, if they are made, with an operator such as Beacon Community Services. So just to clarify on that point, but thank you to colleagues for addressing some of the points in the correspondence we received this evening. I want to quote one and speak to it. I think Wakefield, so this is from the correspondence that we added to the agenda this evening. I think Wakefield Manor may meet some of the criteria. However, it does not meet the criteria of the residents of Wakefield Manor. To ignore the existing OCP and the zoning bylaw in order to achieve the goal make me wonder what is the point of the OCP and zoning bylaw if this can be changed. There are reasons the OCP and the zoning bylaw exist. So that's a reasonable statement, or we appreciate where that statement comes from. The reality of when we were doing the comprehensive review of the OCP, and I'm going back now 2.5 years, 3 years that we started it, and at the point that we approved it more than 2 years ago, or just about 2 years ago this time, we weren't contemplating an emergency response weather shelter in the community, and so it didn't come up for discussion for us. There are all sorts of things that you can put in an OCP, but historically we had not given consideration to such a shelter, and it didn't arise either from the community or from staff or from council members when we were going through community engagement and through our discussions. So it is reasonable. An OCP is a living document, and that changes will be made from time to time, but there has to be staff and council have to have a discussion. They have to have full engagement with the community with regards to the rationale for doing that. So I appreciate the statement, but I just wanted to clarify the process that that we went through with regards to the OCP and zoning bylaw and where we are today. Councillor Keefe?
Thank you. A question through you to staff, just sparked by some of the comments made about the engagement process. So I understand that since we're doing an OCP and a zoning bylaw amendment, we obviously have to go and consult with people like that. Beacon Community Services, as the owner of the building, will do some consultation with their folks there. Is it going to be a joint sort of process in terms of us and Beacon Community Services? And the reason I ask is, I know that when we first considered something like this last year, there was some misconceptions about what an emergency weather shelter would be. And so some people had the idea when they heard shelter, they thought of something that, you see downtown at Rock Point or something, a 24/7 sort of operation. So I guess my point is, I think it would be important to have sort of our viewpoint and Beacon Community Services, and I'm just wondering if staff see it, that kind of process taking place.
Just before turning that question to staff, just a clarification again in process, which I touched on. What we're proceeding with this evening is we're asking staff be directed to prepare the OCP and zoning bylaw amendments, which would, if this resolution passes, would come back to council. There is a public engagement process required, which will include a public hearing for that OCP and zoning amendment. We're just initiating the process. Again, this is not a discussion, this is not a decision point for council with regards to the emergency weather shelter itself or the engagement. We have further stages to go through with regards to securing an operator for this particular location before that. So I just want to separate just a little bit what process we're in this evening and some of the questions, but I will turn to Chief Mickelson, please.
Thank you, Mayor, and through the chair to Councillor O'Keefe. Just kind of backtracking a bit, just to clarify some of the comments that were made in the letter. I have been in consultation with the Vice President of Operations at Beacon Community Services, and all the residents were notified on July 10th at 3:30 p.m. All notices were put on all the doors of all the residents as well. So that was done and put in place. I would echo your comments that yes, we are kind of in early days, although for this year we're dealing with a bit of a condensed time frame to get an application in, but still we're early days, and I have a site meeting with Beacon Community Services tomorrow. And again, I think a lot of the concerns, whether it be security or layouts or different things like that, you know, that process will start in earnest tomorrow during a site visit, and that will inform, you know, part of our reporting process as we come back to council.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, no, that's kind of what I was looking for, so thank you for that.
Thank you. Seeing no further discussion, call the question. Those in favor? All are in favor. That carries. Councillor Gurnett, you're not yet finished.
No. Recommendation 7, the committee recommends, and ICE will move, that an off-leash dog area be considered for Iroquois Park as part of the 2026 budget deliberations.
Point of order, I think we missed recommendation 6.
We already did that.
R6 was moved before the bylaws.
Apologize.
It's okay, no worries. So we have the motion on the floor.
Second.
So we have a mover and seconder with Steve, with Councillor Duck. Any discussion? Not seeing any discussion. Those in favor? All. Sorry. Go ahead.
You're moving too fast.
I am moving too fast. I will no longer call the question. I will stop calling the question, and I will seek if under recommendation number 7, dogs in sport courts. The recommendation is moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Councillor O'Keefe.
Thank you. I'll try and I'll focus on things that didn't talk about last time. So I'm not in favor of this. Couple other things that occurred to me since last week. I was reminded this past week that there's a lovely duck pond just behind that area where a lot of people go for a little bit of a peaceful reprieve. So concerned about the impact that a dog area in close proximity. Also, I know that we learned last time when we were looking at facilities for dogs that it's not just a simple matter of putting up some fencing around an area of grass where they can go and do whatever they're gonna do in there. There's particular surfaces that are required. We're gonna wanna have higher fences so that they're not leaping over the fence and going into the adjacent children's ground. We'll need to have staff doing regular cleanup because those people who are making a mess in the tennis court, they're not gonna change their behavior just because it's in a grassy area. So somebody's gonna have to clean that up. And I guess overall, you know, we've heard from staff over the last couple of years about the need for council to be cautious about adding projects to the list because they're busy. We had a 10% tax increase this past year. And so when I look at the big picture and the scheme of things, I just think that there's other things that are bigger priority in terms of time and costs. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further discussion? Not seeing any. Call the question. Those in favor? Opposed? Councillor O'Keefe is opposed. The motion carries. Thank you, Councillor Garnett, for taking us through those. We're now turning to staff reports, and I'll turn to Ms. Verhagen to introduce the Housing Targets Progress Report, please.
Thank you. Good evening. This is a report on how Sydney has met our housing our target as established by the province. You would remember we saw a similar report back in January on how Sydney did for the first 6 months of the housing target order being in place from July 1st to December 30th, 2024. There's information in the background section of this report on how we did well meeting our first 6 months target. This is our first full year report. So the target of completed units for the first full year as set by the province was 90. And coincidentally, that is what we are at, 90 units, once you add in the total of 126 dwelling units completed, i.e. issued an occupancy permit, and then you deduct the number of dwelling units for which demolition permits were issued, we landed exactly 90, which is a great coincidence because we have met the order. The report goes on to outline other information in terms of how many dwelling units are being considered under development permits and building permits under review. So there's information there. And then, yeah, the report itself, if you look through the attachment to the staff report, being the several page form that we fill out to submit to the province, it does have quite a bit of information on how many dwellings have been completed, and what they're looking for is how many bedrooms are in these dwellings. They're wanting to know, are they 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom units, and also the tenure. Are they market ownership or are they rental? Are they below market? So all of that information is within the form that we would be sending to the province. The housing target order does require that we send this within 45 days, I believe, of the end of the time period. So this report is for July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2025. So we do need to send this to the province by around August 15th of this year. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Novick to start.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to staff. I guess I can start by saying congratulations. It's good that we've met our targets, but I'm curious. These targets seem quite arbitrary, and the scale of development in Sydney also tends to be, to some degree, out of our control. It depends on a multitude of factors. And my question is, what are the consequences of not meeting the targets in a given year? I assume that the probability of us exceeding the targets in 1 year is equal to the probability of not meeting the targets. And I guess the probability of hitting the target right on the head is infinitesimal. So, but what happens if we don't meet those targets over a period of time?
Thank you, Ms. Reagan.
Sure, thank you. So within the report that we submit to the province, section 8 of the report, what is this page in here? Towards the end of it, there's a section in here that says, if the housing target has not been met for the reporting period, please provide a summary of planned and future actions that you intend to undertake to kind of get more dwelling units underway. So the province does give it looks like some leeway, and they're looking to see how do you intend to create and facilitate the construction of more dwelling units. We have heard in the news of other municipalities that have been issued housing target orders and that have not met them, have been kind of assigned, I'm not sure, maybe Mr. Edwards could help out with the right term, but a person from the province who's assigned to that municipality to assist with ideas and techniques and things that they could consider to get more construction underway. Happy to have Mr. Edwards jump in if he has more information.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, they call it a housing advisor, and it's actually a consultant, not a ministry staff, that gets brought into a municipality to look at the municipal practices, so policies, bylaws, and protocols around development approvals, and they then make recommendations to the mayor and council and staff to try to bolster the housing. We've only seen that occur with the District of Oak Bay, and the results, I think, were fairly positive. However, it's really important to remember that development of any nature takes many years, so the idea that we can achieve housing targets that were assigned to us within a 1 year period, or even a little longer, is very ambitious. And so for the situation of the District of Oak Bay, they were not able to meet their housing target, and so they had an advisor signed. But it was somewhat unfortunate because the ministry is not necessarily looking at what was being conducted prior to the issuance of those housing targets. And so that would be the most extreme that I've heard of happening in terms of not meeting the housing targets. But otherwise, like Ms. Verhagen said, it's really a matter of demonstrating what the municipality is doing. And to your point, Councillor, the municipality can only lay the table, for example, but we don't cook the actual meal in this case.
Councillor Novick, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So that takes care of numbers. Is the government looking at anything else other than the blunt instrument of numbers? Are they looking at demographics or socioeconomic positioning of development or categories of development? For example, rental units over sale units. Do they care at all about that, or is that just, no, we're looking at doors and that's it?
Through the mayor to Councillor Novak, the report does identify the number of market-based units versus below market, and whether it's rental or ownership, and so that is all captured in the report. Beyond that type of tenure and style of home or housing, I don't believe that we're diving deep into demographics and things of that nature.
So that's a capture of statistical information, but the government is not coming back to us and say, you don't have enough rental units.
At this point, there is a projected number that is identified also through our housing needs assessment report, which was recently updated, and that's also follows the provincial guidance for drafting that housing needs report. And so we do have an understanding through the provincial methodologies of what portion of our rental stock should be affordable versus market. However, at this point in time, the province isn't mandating an affordable housing target, rather just housing targets overall.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. And I may just add that we're well aware from when this initiated through Council just over a year ago that the province set a housing target based on a methodology that they used for all of the municipalities that have housing targets. They did not reveal that specific methodology to us, but our target is 75% of our housing target order is 75% of the housing target that they set, and so that number. Just a brief comment with regards to probability and the suggestion that the probability might be equal or not, that we make it or do make it. I think with the information provided in the staff report and what Council is aware of, with the projects that we approved prior to the housing target order in the first 6 months of last year, combined with what we've approved and what is under consideration now and coming forward to Council in the coming months, I feel quite optimistic that we will meet our housing target order going forward. And just lastly, I just want to emphasize that as staff I think did, is that it is a mere coincidence that we meet the housing target order of 90 with 90 units. As Mr. Edwards and Mr. Higgins said, we set the table, we provide development approvals and building permits and the timing of when they come, and what the number of demolitions and completions and occupancy permits is not under our control. Thank you. I'd have Councillor O'Keefe next. And, sorry, I had Councillor Gurnett next.
Oh, sure, okay.
Yep.
Thank you, Mayor. And first, just want to thank staff. I think what's often overlooked is this was not something that would be part of our normal duties, and this is something that was sort of thrown on you as an extra function. So I appreciate all the work you've gone and put into this. A question with regards to Section 5, just for clarity, showing application 16, new unit 62. Is any or all that encapsulated within the 90, or is that towards our next 91?
Through the mayor to Councillor Garnett, that is towards our next set of units being constructed. So the units in Section 5 These are showing what's been approved, not what's, like, approved for development and construction, not what's got occupancy permits yet. So this
Great.
is kind of the next phase of what's
Great.
coming.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor O'Keefe, please.
Thank you, through you to staff. So as I'm understanding the targets, it's just basically the number of units, no tenure or anything like that. But they are asking us to report on affordability. However, there isn't a specific in these targets of 181. There's not a target for those, is how I'm understanding it.
That's correct. Yeah.
Oh, okay, good, got that. So the second thing kind of related is, we talked about the housing needs assessment, and I remember going through that, and we got an update, I think in November, and it's in the housing needs assessment, is my recollection, where there's a bit more granularity, I believe, in terms of what we're targeting for affordable or below market rental, different types of tenure and stuff like that. Now, do we, I recall from a session from BC Housing, I think it was at AVICC or UBCM, about we had to report on those housing needs assessments in terms of how are we doing with that. Although at the time, they seemed to be leaning towards moving away from having us send in our housing needs assessment. So I'm just kind of looking for like the correlation between the housing needs assessment that we do and then the targets that they set, and are we reporting on both, or do they kind of work together?
Ms. Verhagen, please.
Sure, thank you. So that, you're right that we did report to council about our interim housing needs assessment. That was received by council November 12th, 2024. So you'll recall that was kind of the update from the one that was done in 2018. Planning staff are currently conducting an analysis of the OCP and the zoning bylaw to determine whether the 20-year housing demand number that was established in that interim housing needs report, to see is it already being met in our OCP and zoning bylaw without needing to amend those bylaws, or do we need to make some amendments to ensure that we have enough lands for development of that 20-year housing needs. So that is something, as I said, that planning staff are currently working on and would be reporting back to council before the legislated deadline. So that is one of the changes that came from the province, that we had to do these steps of reviewing our policies and bylaws to see do we have enough lands for housing. And the province has also set a schedule for when we do need to do the next housing needs assessment. I can't recall offhand what that deadline is, whether it's every 4 or 5 years. Mr. Newcomb would have that information, or we could report back to you about that. But within this housing target report, they're not looking for information specifically on how many units we've got and are we meeting. They're not asking us to correlate it with our housing needs report, but they have that information too. They may be doing that on the back end of the process.
Okay, so I just wondered if so they're making you do both ends, reporting on the targets and then the housing needs assessment, and okay, great, thanks for that.
Yeah, again, to clarify, this housing target order is a 5-year housing target order based on the methodology that the province used in setting the housing needs, and for that 5-year, the process we went through in the fall, again, based on the province, was to look at the 20-year housing needs, and we're required, staff are to come back with regards to information on that particular housing needs, the 20-year housing needs, later this year. Councillor Duck, please.
I'm prepared to move the recommendation.
Are there any other questions? Please.
I so move that the Housing Target Progress Report for Year 1, July 1, 2024 to June 30th, 2025 be received, and that staff be directed to post the report on the town website and submit it to the province.
Second.
Moved and seconded. I'll turn to the movers.
Nothing to add.
Any further discussion? Those in favor? All are in favor. That carries. Thank you. I'll now turn to Mr. Hissick to introduce the changes to borrowing regulations report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So municipal borrowing is governed mostly by the Municipal Liabilities Regulation, and borrowing is subject to certain limits as outlined in that regulation. Our limits are based on our annual revenues. We're generally limited to debt servicing that's no more than 25% of our annual revenues, although The actual amount we are committed to is much lower than that. The borrowing is also subject to various types of public assent if that borrowing falls above a certain threshold. Those thresholds have not been amended for years, and they have recently been adjusted. And while our overall borrowing limit has not changed, the amount that we're able to borrow assent-free has essentially doubled. So the amount of annual debt servicing we're allowed to take on without public approval has been increased from 5% to 10% of our annual revenues. And based on those numbers, it's estimated that the town may now borrow up to an additional $27.5 million without public assent. But whether or not we do this will always remain a council decision. Just because we can do it doesn't mean that we will. In addition to that change, there's also been a change to the short-term borrowing regulation, which essentially triples the amount we can borrow on a short-term basis, that is, for a term of up to 5 years. That limit is now $1.9 million. If there are any questions, I'd be pleased to address them.
Thank you, Mr. Hisik. I'll turn to colleagues. Councillor Novak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for your report, Mr. Hisik. I'm curious about that 27.5 million. It says town would be able to borrow up to an additional 27.5 million. So is that 27.5 million in addition to any existing borrowings that are outstanding?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Seeing no further questions, this is a report for information. Thank you again, Mr. Hisik. No motion is required, or there's no recommendation. We'll go to the next item. And I'll turn to our Manager of Engineering, Mr. Demare, to introduce the Iroquois Park user agreements, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report is brought forward to seek council's approval for new user agreements with Peninsula Soccer Association, Peace Soccer Association, and the Victoria and District Cricket Association for use of the Iroquois Park field. The current agreements with these organizations are due for renewal as the existing 5-year term expires at the end of 2025. The agreements out the responsibilities for coordinating field use, scheduling, and cooperation on the use of equipment, as well as requirements for insurance coverage. During the past 5 years, there have been no significant issues regarding scheduling with the clubs and no increased maintenance requirements for the field. Staff are therefore recommending that these agreements be extended for 5 additional years with new term beginning January 1st of 2026 and expiring on December 31st of 2030. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions, Councillor Novak?
I was just prepared to move the recommendation if there are no questions.
Yeah, if you can just, if we procedurally, if I can just ask if there are questions, and then I'll ask for a mover of the motion when we have no questions. Councillor Garnett?
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to staff. Just looking at it and trying to consider Peninsula Soccer, I know, and it assumes from the address provided that PACE is a local or Peninsula Soccer team of some sort. Would you be able to?
Yeah, that's correct. They've been using the field for the past 5 years, and they've been coordinating really well with Peninsula Soccer.
And if I may, Victoria District Cricket Association, do we have any Sydney residents or Peninsula residents that actually are a part of that association?
I'm not entirely sure who the participants are, but they have been using that field. It's outside of the normal soccer field, so it works quite well for their use as well.
I guess my follow-up question would be, like, if we had a local organization that wanted to, and it conflicted, would we prioritize them over, even though they have past experience using it, not being a community association, would we prioritize one that is?
When we get any new applications, we certainly consider the local content as well, but do our best to try to make sure that the groups work together to try to best utilize the facilities equally.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor O'Keefe.
Thank you. Along the same line as Councillor Duck, question 3, you to staff. And sorry, maybe it's contained in here and I missed it. But are there different rates? If it's a local group or a group from outside, and the only reason I ask is I recall with Mary Winspear Center, I don't know if it's still the case, but at one time they did give preferential rates to local groups if they had more sort of Sydney people, since it's a town of Sydney taxpayers' asset, so. Or is it same rate for everybody?
It's the same rate throughout.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Seeing no further questions, if we have someone to look to move the motion, Councillor Novak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll follow the recommendation. Would you like all three at the same time or individually?
Yes, please, all three.
That the Iroquois Park Usage Agreement 2026-2030 between the town and Peninsula Soccer Association for use of the Iroquois Park field be approved. Number two, that the Iroquois Park Usage Agreement 2026 to 2030 between the town and Pace Soccer Association for use of the Iroquois Park field be approved. Number three, that the Iroquois Park Usage Agreement 2026 to 2030 between the town and Victoria District Cricket Association for the use of the Iroquois Park field be approved.
We have it moved.
Second.
Second by Councillor Duck. Alternative movers?
Yeah, I don't see any problem with this. The fields are there to be used. I'm happy to see that they are being used. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nothing to add.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, those in favor? All in favor, that carries. Thank you. We're next turning to item 13D, which is the monthly building permit report for the month of June. There's no recommendation. It's for information only. Are there any questions or comments? Not seeing any. We're next, we don't have any correspondence for council consideration this evening. We do have correspondence for information, which we're receiving by virtue of it being on our agenda. I just want to note that under 15.1, we have two items of correspondence regarding the proposed development application for 9972 3rd Street. As has been the case with correspondence received on previous agendas, we receive it on our agenda in a timely fashion. This was received recently, but all of this correspondence will go to the council meeting when the application does come forward, whether it's a committee of the whole or a council meeting. And 15.2 is correspondence from 14 individuals regarding proposed development application at 9989 and 9991 5th Street, and similarly, all of that correspondence will come forward at the time the application first comes before council. We don't require a motion for correspondence for information. We have no motion to go on camera this evening. I'll seek a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Those in favor?